All right, this is the NFL in all its splendor. 8 divisions, 32 teams. I'm going to give it to you real quick. Check this out. NFC East, Skins, Boys, Giants, and Philly. Sleep on this division? Huh, that's silly. Next up, it's the NFC South. Panthers, Birds, Bucks, and Saints. Point them out. Overlook the NFC North? Nice try. Lions, Packs, Vikes, and Bears? Oh my. Check out the NFC West with the Cards, Hawks, Rams, and 49ers. This division is full of defensive grinders. The AFC East, Pats, fans, Jets, and Bills. No D, but guess what? Oh, kills. In the AFC West, it's the Broncos, Raiders, Bolts, and Chiefs. About time somebody stepped up in that division. Good grief. AFC North, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, and Browns. This division plays some of the best ball in town. In the AFC South, Texans, Titans, Colts, and Jags. Everybody in this division shares the riches and the rags. What 12 teams will find themselves in the playoffs with safe landings? This show helps you figure that out. Division standings. Welcome to the long-awaited, long-anticipated Division Standings segment. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. It's been a long time coming. I've been hinting at this program's arrival for a while now. It's finally here. This is a one-stop shop for everything Division Standings related. Anything that goes on in the National Football League from this point on will be chronicled in these division standings in this program moving forward. We will talk about every single team and what they're doing. Now, look, we won't go into depth and into serious details on every single team, as every team in the National Football League doesn't have a legitimate shot to make the postseason. There's only 12 slots available in the playoffs, 6 from each conference. And so we know that there are about 8 to 12 teams who have absolutely zero shot of making the postseason. We won't spend a lot of time on those teams. But for the other 20 that are jockeying and vying for those 12 spots, playing musical chairs, we will talk in depth about those teams and what they need to do to make themselves a playoff participant for the 2012 season in the National Football League. So we'll go one by one, each division, talk about each team, what they have coming up on the horizon, what they need to do to make themselves a relevant player in the playoff landscape in the 2012 season. We will start with the NFC East. As I am NFC East biased, because I am an NFC East man, so we will start there with the NFC East. And in first place in this division right now, as it currently stands, the New York Football Giants are your first place team in the NFC East. They have a mark of 7-4 on the season. They're 2-2 in the division. And as we all know, every division has 4 teams in it. Each team plays 6 division games, 2 versus each team in that division. So the Giants have already partaken in 4 games in this division. So they have 2 division matchups left. One against the Redskins on Monday Night Football in Week 13, coming up on Monday Night Football this week in Washington. The other, the season finale against the Philadelphia Eagles at home. So the Giants have an opportunity this week to put this division almost, but not quite away. With a win over the Redskins, they will eliminate the Redskins from division contention, and they will really only have the Dallas Cowboys to worry about moving forward. If they're able to defeat the Redskins on Monday, take their record to 8-4 on the season, move their division record to 3-2 on the season, and have the Cowboys lose, this division, for all intents and purposes, is over. The Giants will be your NFC East champions for the 2012 season. Now, the Cowboys have the Eagles up on the slate. We'll talk about the Cowboys a little bit later, but the Cowboys have the Eagles coming up. They should be able to take care of business, but we don't know. That's family business. You never know. When you get 2 members of the same family playing against each other, you never know what's going to happen. You throw the records out the window, anything goes. So hard to say right now how this division is going to unfold. The Giants hold a 2-game lead over the Redskins and the Cowboys right now, but those things could change here shortly. This is a fluid situation. The Giants right now are sitting pretty atop the NFC East, but that may not be the case here in a week or so. You look at the second place team in this division. It's the Washington Redskins, who leapfrog over the Dallas Cowboys with their win over these Cowboys on Thanksgiving. They're 5-6 on the season, as well as the Dallas Cowboys are 5-6, both 2 games behind the Giants in the NFC East. The Redskins are 2-1 in the division, so they have 3 games left on their slate in terms of divisional opponents. And those opponents will be the Giants on Monday at home, the Eagles on the second to last week of the season at Philadelphia, and to wrap up the season, the Redskins will host the Dallas Cowboys in their last matchup against each other on the season. So the Redskins have 3 division games left on their slate. And of their 5 matchups, 3 are at home, 2 are on the road. So the Redskins have a favorable schedule in terms of home and away down the stretch. Now they have tough opponents. They have the Giants coming up. Then they're going to be hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Then they travel to Cleveland. Then they travel to Philadelphia and finish up at home against the Cowboys. So it's not a cakewalk, but it is a doable schedule for the Redskins. If they can find a way to beat the Giants, somehow get a win against the Ravens, that's going to be the test. Can the Redskins beat the Baltimore Ravens at home? If they're able to do that, they can have a chance to run the table in this division. But you take it one game at a time. They have the Giants. This is a big one. They don't beat the Giants, there's probably not going to be a lot of playoff talk for this team moving forward. This is a big matchup to get back to 500. They need to find a way to beat the New York Giants on Monday Night Football at home. You look at the Dallas Cowboys, who are also 5-6 on the season. That loss to the Redskins hurt because they had finally made it to 5-5, made it to 500 on the season, had a chance to elevate themselves up over 500 and be breathing down the necks of the New York Giants in this division, only behind them by 1 game in the standings. Having already played the Giants twice this season and split the season series, a tie with the Giants will lead to tiebreakers, division standings, conference record, things of that nature. But the Cowboys weren't able to beat the Redskins on Thanksgiving. They dropped to 5-6, and now they have an uphill battle to climb. They had 3 home games, 2 on the road, and they were supposed to have the softest remaining schedule of all the teams jockeying for a position in the playoffs in the NFC East. However, you look at their schedule, and it's not as soft as people want you to believe. You look at their schedule. You're talking about Philadelphia at home. That is indeed a soft game. However, it's family business, and so you must take that with a grain of salt. You don't know what Philadelphia Eagles team is going to show up. They both know each other well. It's family business, so you can't just say this is going to be a Cowboys win, but they should be able to win that game. You look at the next matchup at Cincinnati. A few weeks ago, that looked like a nice matchup for the Cowboys. All of a sudden now, the Bengals are playing good football, winners of 2 straight. All of a sudden now, the Bengals are up over 500. And now the Cowboys have to go to Cincinnati to take on these very Bengals. Not an easy game. You look at their next matchup. They come back home to take on Pittsburgh. The Steelers aren't playing good football. They're minus Ben Roethlisberger. They're struggling right now. But by the time they get to the Steelers, I have a feeling Ben Roethlisberger will be back. That's going to be a tough matchup for the Cowboys. That's not an easy game. You look at the next matchup at home against the New Orleans Saints. What happened to this part of the schedule being soft? I don't see a soft game on this schedule yet besides the Philadelphia Eagles. At home against the Saints, not a cakewalk, not an easy game. Drew Brees and the Saints are still a viable team in the NFC. Tough team to stop offensively. The Cowboys are going to have to saddle up to take care of the Saints at home. And then they finish up the season on the road against a Redskins team that they've already lost to at home on Thanksgiving. So I don't see where everyone that had this Cowboys team having a soft finish to their schedule. I don't see where the softness is in this schedule. The Cowboys have a tough slate coming up, and they have to find a way to start winning games because of the 2 teams out of the Redskins and the Cowboys, being that the Cowboys have already beaten the Giants, they have the inside track to beating the Giants out for this division race if the Redskins aren't able to beat the Giants on Monday. So this is imperative that the Cowboys start winning games, start winning them fast, and start to compile wins and give themselves a shot in the NFC East. Now, wild card wise, both the Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys are right in the mix. At 5-6, you're 1 game behind the wild card leaders in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. Minnesota Vikings are also at 6-5 on the season, but they lost to Tampa Bay, so they're on the outside looking in right now. But All the teams above them in the wild card race are all at 6-5. So if the Redskins and the Cowboys are able to get to 6-6, they'll be right there in the mix along with the rest of the teams going after those two wild card berths in the NFC. You look at the next division up in this division standing segment, and it's the NFC West. And really, this division is not up for grabs. The NFC West will be won by the San Francisco 49ers. It's almost like declaring a state for a president. You're not sure if this president is going to win the state, 100% sure, but by my calculations, the NFC West will be won by the San Francisco 49ers. I can project that the San Francisco 49ers will win the NFC West. They have this division wrapped up for the most part. All they have to do is tie up a few loose ends, and the 49ers will be your NFC West champions. Looking at this division, the 49ers right now stand at 8-1 in the division. The one tie coming against the St. Louis Rams, another member of the NFC West division. And so with this 8-1 mark, they sit really, 2.5 games above any other member of the NFC West. Games to go and a game left against every member in the division. The 49ers control their own fate. They're 8-1 on the season, 2-0-1 on the season in the division, and so they haven't lost in the division all season long. One tie coming against the St. Louis Rams at home, and so they have 5 games remaining like everyone else in the National Football League. 3 of these games are on the road, 2 of them at home. Their next opponent will be the St. Louis Rams in St. Louis. This is a feisty St. Louis Rams team that at home plays better than they do on the road. It's family business. You never know what to expect. This is the same Rams team that went to San Francisco and tied these very San Francisco 49ers. So you don't know what to expect, but the 49ers should be able to come away with the victory here. But you never know. It's family business. You throw records and everything else out the window. So that will be a tough matchup for the 49ers. You look at their next matchup after that, they have the Dolphins at home. Then they travel to New England. That'll be a big matchup in the grand scheme of the whole NFL landscape. That will be a big matchup, one to keep an eye on as they travel to New England. That could potentially be a Super Bowl matchup. You don't know. That will be a big one to keep an eye on. You look at them traveling after that to Seattle. So that's another road matchup for this San Francisco 49ers team. And then they finish up the season at home against Arizona. So a very doable finish to this season for the San Francisco 49ers. 3 road games, 2 at home. But they have opponents that they should be able to handle in 3 of those 5 matchups very easily. So they just take care of business. San Francisco 49ers should win this division with no problems. You look at the next participant in this division, and that's the Seattle Seahawks, who currently sit second in the NFC West. This Seattle Seahawks team has been up and down this season. Up when they're at home, down when they're on the road. At home right now, they're 5-0, have not lost a game at home all season. Meanwhile, on the road, they're 1-5 on the season. And so they have to find a way to get it done on the road. If this team wants to make something of their season, they're going to have to find a way to win on the road. Just winning at home won't be enough. They have to find a way to start winning games at home. Their final 5 games breaks down as 2 on the road, 3 at home. They go to Chicago this week. That's a tough matchup, tough place to play. And then they go home for Arizona, back on the road to Buffalo, home for San Francisco, and finish up the season at home against St. Louis. So they're 0-3 in the division. But the kicker there is they haven't played a home division game yet. Their final 3 games within the division are all at home. And as I've already stated, they're a perfect 5-0 at home on the season. So look out for this Seattle Seahawks team down the stretch as they have 3 division games all at home, a place they haven't lost all season long. If they want to make a run at the playoffs, they're going to have to, however, find a way to win at least 1 more game on the road at this juncture in the season. They go to Buffalo. Going to Chicago, that's a tall order and a tough task for the Seattle Seahawks to go and get a win. However, 2 weeks after that, they go to Buffalo. That's where they need to find a way to scratch and claw and come out with a road win. They can't beat Buffalo on the road. I don't know if this Seattle Seahawks team will find themselves in the playoffs come January. Really, the last two teams in this division don't stand a shot at making the playoffs. The St. Louis Rams are at 4-6-1, and the Arizona Cardinals, after starting the season 4-0, have dropped 7 straight. Neither one of these teams are really a viable candidate to make the playoffs. They're hanging around, though, but they're not a playoff participant this season. These are two teams looking to build for the future, and so they're just playing spoiled at this point. They each play the two teams above them in the division, and so they have a chance to have an impact on this division moving forward. And let's see how this division shakes out as this season continues to progress. The next division on the horizon on this division standings program is the NFC North. And this right here seems to be the toughest division in all of the NFC, period. Of all the divisions in the National Football League, this one here is probably the tightest in terms of determining a winner of the division. You have 3 teams right now over 500, all jockeying for position in the playoffs, all looking to make the playoffs. I don't think when it's all said and done that all 3 of these teams will be invited to the playoffs. I don't think all 3 of these teams will get tickets to the dance. I think 2 out of these 3 teams will make it. And if you've been watching football and you know how this thing works, then you know the 2 teams that I'm referring to are the Chicago Bears, the division-leading Chicago Bears, and the second-place team in this division, the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Minnesota Vikings are in third, and we'll get to them in a little bit, but they have a legitimate shot at making the postseason. I just don't think they'll have enough left in the gas tank to make it down the stretch. Let's start with the NFC North leading Chicago Bears, however. Right now, they currently have an 8-3 mark on the season, which is second best record in the NFC conference as a whole. They're 2-1 in the division, which means they have 3 division matchups remaining. Those 3 teams are the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, and the Detroit Lions. So they have one matchup with each of the 3 teams in the division left on the season. You look at their 5 matchups left on the season, and they have 3 road games and 2 games remaining at home, one of which is against the Seattle Seahawks coming up in Week 13. They travel to Minnesota thereafter. They come back home for Green Bay, and they finish up with 2 road games at Arizona, at Detroit. So that's not that tough of a schedule, but again, anytime you're playing divisional opponents, 3 out of your last 5 games, those are all tough matchups. I don't care what the records say. These are tough games because it's family business. So the Bears have a tough go of it down the stretch, but that Arizona game is one that they should be able to win. And this Seattle Seahawks team is an up-and-down team that has not played good football on the road. That might be another game that they will be able to grasp if they come out and play Chicago Bears football. This is a division that is up for grabs. Much like the NFC East, this is a division that you can't project a winner quite yet because the Bears were just in second place a week ago. They were able to win on Sunday. The Packers lost at the Giants, and so the Bears were able to leapfrog back into first place over the Green Bay Packers, who went back into second place. And so this is a very fluid situation, is this NFC North division. If the Packers are able to get their act together, they do have one more matchup with these very Bears. They already beat the Bears once this season. And so if they're able to go to Chicago, to Soldier Field, and come away with a victory, they probably will win this division if they can do so. Looking at the Green Bay Packers, they're 7-4 on the season. That loss to the Giants on Sunday Night Football dropped them to 7-4 on the season and put them in second place. They're 2-0 in the division, so right now they have a better division record than the Bears. They haven't played as many games in the division as the Bears have, but nonetheless, they have a better division record at 2-0. Haven't lost in the division, but they still have 4 remaining games in the division. That's a lot when we're talking about only having 5 games left on the season. So 4 out of their last 5 matchups are against divisional opponents. So a lot of family business for the Green Bay Packers to settle. And I tell you what, family business is the toughest games you'll have all season. And so those Packers need to strap up those chin straps because these are going to be tough matchups. Then they have the Detroit Lions at home. Then they go on the road to Chicago, come back home for Tennessee, finish up at Minnesota. So that's a tough stretch for the Packers. These next 2 home games are going to be vital for them to make a move in this division. If they want to win this division, they need to find a way to win these next 2 matchups at home, at Lambeau, against divisional opponents. Keep their division record flawless until that matchup with the Chicago Bears 3 weeks from now in Chicago. That will be the matchup that probably will decide this division. If the Bears can find a way to beat the Packers in that game, and we don't know how these last 5 games are going to go. The Bears could drop 4 out of their last 5. The Packers could win 3 out of their last 5 and win the division. We don't know how this thing is going to shake out. However, if the Bears continue to play the football that they've played for the most part this season, they'll probably win 3 or 4 out of their last 5 remaining games. And if they can find a way to beat the Packers and split with them, they'll probably win this division. If the Packers can find a way to win 3 or 4 out of their remaining 5 games and beat the Chicago Bears as one of those victories that they are able to notch at the end of this season, they'll probably win this division. So that game in 3 weeks will go a long way to tell us who will win this division. I think whoever doesn't win this division will still land a playoff spot as one of the wild card seeds in the NFC. So whether they win their division or not, these 2 teams look prime and poised to be going to the postseason as one of the 6 participants in the NFC. Now, in third are the Minnesota Vikings in this division. And right now they have a record of 6-5. They're 2-1 in the division, but the kicker there is they haven't played the big boys in the division. Their first game against a big boy in the division was just this past Sunday against the Chicago Bears in Chicago, where they were trampled 28-10. And so they still have one more matchup with those very Bears and still 2 matchups with the Green Bay Packers. So they could be in some trouble, could the Minnesota Vikings, if they can't beat the elite teams in their division. If they find a way to beat the Packers, find a way to beat the Bears at home, and split with those teams, they have a legitimate shot at going to the postseason as well in this division. That's a tough and tall order to ask of this Minnesota Vikings team with a young quarterback, a young nucleus. They have a long way to go. Don't know if they'll be able to beat the Packers or the Bears this season, but it's interesting to see what they'll be able to do. Their last 5 games reads as such. They have 3 games on the road, 2 left at home. Their next matchup is at Green Bay. They come home for Chicago, go back on the road for 2 straight at St. Louis, at Houston, come home for the season finale at home against the Green Bay Packers. So that is not an easy slate. As a matter of fact, of the members of the NFC North, they have the toughest schedule in terms of teams looking to make the postseason. They have to play the Packers twice, the Bears once, and the Houston Texans, who have the best record, tied with the Atlanta Falcons in the National Football League. And so that's a tough slate for these Minnesota Vikings. Let's see how they finish up. I don't think they'll be able to win enough games to make it to the postseason, but right now they're in the driver's seat. They just need to win. If they continue to win ball games, they will probably find themselves in the postseason. But that's a tough, tall order to ask of this team, because 4 of their 5 remaining games are teams who are above 500 on the season. And so they're going to have to really ratchet it up if they want to make the postseason. The last team in this division are the Detroit Lions, who made the postseason a year ago. They will not make it for a second consecutive year. They're 4-7 on the season. And where they've come undone is they're 0-4 in the division. You can't win in your division. You can't get a ticket to the dance. Simple as that. And so the Detroit Lions will have to look to next year if they want to play some postseason football, because it will not happen in the 2012 season. Next up in the division standings is the NFC South. This is the last of the NFC divisions, and this division is done. You stick a fork in it, this division is done. Wrap it up, put a bow on top. This division belongs to the Atlanta Falcons. They are 10-1 on the season. No one is even close to them in this division. With one more victory on the season, they will officially win the NFC South division. You can go ahead and type up the banner that says Atlanta Falcons 2012-2013 NFC South champions. You can go ahead and type it up, let the ink dry, and hang it in the rafters. They are your NFC South champions for the 2012-2013 season. I will go ahead and project that right now and tell you that's going to happen. So the Atlanta Falcons not only will be one of the 6 participants in the NFC in the playoffs, but they most likely will be one of the 2 teams that will land themselves a bye week in the NFC playoffs. So not only are they jockeying right now for supremacy in the NFC South, they're looking to establish themselves as the best team in the NFC and land not only a first round bye in the playoffs, but home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. So that's something that the Falcons look to achieve. Right now they're 2-1 in their division. They have 3 games remaining in their division, 1 against the Saints, 1 against the Panthers, 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So each remaining member of this division, the Falcons have 1 more matchup against them. And so they have 2 games on the road, 3 games at home, and they're 2-1 in the division. Again, that 1 loss being to New Orleans, a team in the division. So they've only lost 1 game all season. That 1 loss came against a divisional opponent in the New Orleans Saints. So this Atlanta Falcons team is on the fast track to home field throughout in the NFC playoffs. They're going to get a first round bye. It's a foregone conclusion. They just have to continue to play solid football, which they've done all season long. I don't see them letting up off the gas pedal now. This should be a 12 or 13 win team this season, and they're going to get a first round bye and probably home field throughout the NFC playoffs as well. You look at the second place team in this division right now as it stands, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And who saw this coming when the season first commenced? No one saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers jumping out as a second place team looking to make the playoffs in the NFC in the 2012 season. They started off this season slow, just as everyone suspected. They had no offense. Greg Schiano, first-year head coach, was struggling to make the transition to the NFL game. He brought a level of physicality to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. However, they still didn't get it done on the offensive end. There was a sense of discipline. You could see this Buccaneers team changing before your eyes, but you didn't think it was going to translate to wins this soon. They come off the bye, and they've been playing a different brand of football. They're a different team. And now they can score points with the best of them in the National Football League. They've been doing that for the last 6 games now. Haven't won all of them. They've won 5 out of their last 7. They're a dangerous team now. They're 6-5 on the season. They're in second place in this division. 2-2 currently in the division. And so they have 2 games left in the division. And of their last 5 games, this is a whopper. They have 4 games on the road and only 1 remaining at home. So they're going to be very busy, and if they want to make the playoffs, and they're right there in the midst of this playoff race in the NFC, all they have to do is win. They're currently in the playoffs. If it started today, they would be the 6th seed in the NFC. So all they have to do is win. They continue to win, they will be in the playoffs come January. But it's going to be a tough task because, as I just stated, they have 2 games left in the division, and they're on the road 4 out of their last 5 games. I mean, that's a tough go of it. That is a tough way to wrap up your season. So you're talking on the road for 1, home for the last game of the season, and then you finish up with 3 straight games on the road. That is a tough road ahead for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they want to make the postseason, they're going to have to go get it done on the road. So you look at this upcoming slate of games. They go to Denver, and we know how tough it's been for opponents to win in Denver against Peyton Manning and that Denver Broncos group. That's going to be a tough matchup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at the next matchup, they come home for Philly. That should be a game that if the Philadelphia Eagles are continuing to play the way they've been playing of late, they should be able to get that game. You go back on the road, and you don't come back home. This is it. That's your last game at home against the Eagles. Then you go on the road for 3 straight games. At New Orleans, at Detroit, at Atlanta. That's a tough way to finish up your season if you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so if they want to make the postseason, they're going to have to show that they can get it done on the road. They will earn a playoff berth if they make it in this season, because to finish up 4 out of your last 5 on the road, that is a tough go of it indeed. You look at the third place team in this division, it's the New Orleans Saints. This is a surprise this season. This was a team that everyone suspects that will be among the best in the NFC when the season starts. You always figure that in each conference there are about 2, 3, maybe 4 teams that you just assume are going to be good because they're good every single year. That's just what you expect. There was an asterisk by this New Orleans Saints team coming into the season. We know of the struggles and the controversy in the offseason with the Bounty Gate scandal, and so a lot of guys were suspended, including coaches. And I think that's what hurt this team the most, not having their head coach, Sean Payton, not having assistant head coach, Joe Vitt, for the first 6 games, having an interim coach who hadn't really coached in the National Football League as a head coach, having to be the man. They struggled to start this season off, and it showed. It showed that they didn't have the leadership and the guys in place that they needed to have to make this thing run smoothly, and so they struggled out of the gate. They lost their first 4 games. They started the season off 0-4, and they had to dig themselves out of a hole. They got themselves into a hole early in the season by losing their first 4 games. And so they got hot. They caught fire once Joe Vitt took over as the coach. They started to play really good football. They started to win games. They got themselves back to 500, winning 5 out of their last 6 games. Got back to 5-5. But they dropped their last game to the San Francisco 49ers, which puts them at 5-6 on the season. And so if they want to make the postseason, and I had said, early on in the season that I thought it was too late for this New Orleans Saints team. I thought that they were going to make a go of it. They were going to try to make a run. Drew Brees came to the podium, made the little passionate speech about how they weren't done and they were going to make the playoffs. And I said, Drew Brees, I appreciate you coming to the podium and making that statement and trying to will your team to victories and give your team the confidence that they can get it done. But I don't think you honestly believe that statement. I didn't believe it, and maybe he did. I'm pretty sure he did believe what he was saying. But at the time when you're losing games and you can't understand why you can't get a win, you'll say anything to try to motivate your teammates, coaches, staff, everyone involved. You'll try to motivate them any way you can. He's a great leader, so that's what you expect out of him. But I don't expect this New Orleans Saints team to find a way to make the postseason. I just don't think that you can start the season 0-4, turn it on like that, and just get a playoff spot. I don't think that's how it works, and I don't think they're going to be able to turn it up and get to a playoff berth after starting the season 0-4. It's a tough ask of a team. But you look at the Saints, they have a shot. Again, just as the Redskins and the Cowboys are 5-6, this Saints team is 5-6, and they're right there, 1 game behind all of the teams in front of them for those last 2 playoff berths in the NFC. All those 6-5 groups. You got the Seattle Seahawks at 6-5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 6-5, and you also have the Minnesota Vikings at 6-5. So the Saints are right there at 5-6. They're only 1 game back. They can get a win this week, get back to 6-6. Then you have a whole nother ball game on your hands. And so looking at the Saints, they're 2-1 in their division. They have 5 games remaining like everyone else does in the National Football League. Of those 5 games, 3 are on the road, 2 are at home. Their next matchup is a big one on Thursday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons. That's going to be a huge matchup in the landscape of not only the division, but in the conference. They need to win this game. It's going to be a tough go of it on the road against a team that you've beat already at home. You're the only team in the league to beat this Atlanta Falcons team, so you know you can get it done. But the Georgia Dome has always been a house of horrors for this New Orleans Saints team. It's always been a tough place for them to play. It's going to be hard for them to go into Atlanta and beat this Atlanta Falcons team. If they're able to do so, that will be one of those wins that kind of boosts the morale of the whole team, catapults you into a different stratosphere, and might be the catalyst for this Saints team to make a push to make the postseason in 2012. I just don't know if they'll be able to go on the road into an environment. I'm not sure if they'll be able to do that, but you look at the next matchups that they have, and I tell you what, this is a tough finish to their season. You're at Atlanta. You're at the Giants. You come back home to Tampa Bay. You go back on the road to go to Dallas, and then you go back home to finish up the season against Carolina. That's a tough stretch for the New Orleans Saints. There are no easy games. There are no layups in those stretch of games, and so there's no break for them. There's not a Philadelphia, there's not a Kansas City, a Jacksonville or something like that where they can say, all right, we can kind of have a sigh of relief here. There's none of those games on this slate for these last 5 remaining games. They have to find a way to summon up the strength to get it done because these are 5 tough matchups for the New Orleans Saints. And they don't have any room for error. They used up all their margin of error early in the season when they decided to start the season 0-4. They don't have any room for error now. They have to win football games. So be interesting to see how the Saints are able to handle these last 5 games on their schedule, starting with this road matchup on Thursday in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome. The last team in this division are the Carolina Panthers. They're not going anywhere. Again, they were the team talking Super Bowl before the season starts. Now they're 3-8, and they're just looking to try and finish this season strong and build for next year. They're not a good football team, and they'll be looking to try to right the ship at the end of this season and build towards next season in the National Football League. And those are your NFC Division standings.